TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no rain with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, baby, higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for Tea Time Wagers at the John Deere Classic with good friend and colleague, Mr. Brady Kannon. Shout out to our proud sponsor and partnership, WagerWire. If you have not downloaded the app, head on over to Google Play. Download it. It's free. And then I promise myself, Travis Zach will take good care of you from there. And shout out to a new sponsor, Viva. Good friend and colleague, Mr. C.T. Thurston. I love the commercial, getting ready for the Olympics. Haley Deegan from NASCAR in Southie, where I will be in Southie to pick up my daughter later tonight after the Sports Grid at 8:30 tonight. Come join us with Mr. Scott Wetzel. But we got to talk about some golf. So what better expert, guru, and friend to bring on the one and only Mr. Brady Kannon.
Thank you very much. As always, Jeff, happy 4th of July to you and your family. And I tell you, I'm right there with you, enjoying that new sponsor, the Viva commercial, the tequila seltzer. That had me fired up. I was watching the intro going, what is Jeff up to, man? This is pretty cool. So congratulations on that. And yeah, I might have to find myself. I missed Cinco de Mayo, but now we've got 4th of July. I'll have to see if I can find a tequila seltzer by Viva for myself this weekend.
Rocket Mortgage. And let me just move down here for 1 second. I'm playing both producer and host here, so bear with me. Noah is working at the Kansas City Royals game. Have fun there, Noah. You are missed here. You know, I'm sitting there and on Sunday, I did my work on Saturday, reached out, of course, to our good friend and colleague, Mr. Benson at the Circa. EVR, Mr. Van Royen, the number caught my eyes there on Saturday. Never fired Saturday or Sunday. An amazing leaderboard. Mr. Batia and Ray right there. They were the two favorites. And then you had the two Cams. You had the Cam Young, who, if I remember correctly, 7 seconds, 7 runner-ups,
yes.
Looking for that first one. Cam Davis, of course, I talked about Van Royen. You know, we talked a few weeks ago about Rory's blunders on 16 and 18, the 2 3-foot putts. And of all people, Batia. And again, we weren't talking a signature elevated event, and the course was a lot tougher compared to what we saw last week. And Batia, hats off to him. He says, I'm human. He got a little nervous, a little jumpy. Thoughts on the weekend, thoughts going into Sunday, and obviously the finale.
Well, it was a really wild finish. I thought there was no doubt about it. We were headed for a playoff, and I thought maybe Batia would even win it in regulation. The least, possible outcome I figured was Cam Davis winning it in regulation. That was really wild. And I felt bad for Batia. And like you say, yeah, hats off. He said, hey, I missed it, man. I'm human. You know what happens. And incredible turn of events, and we'll talk about this week too. This will be our 3rd week in a row that it's a birdie fest. And we've talked about this on the show, Jeff, in recent weeks. When you're in a track meet, you can't drop the baton. In a golf tournament like this, a birdie fest, you can't make a bogey. Akshay Bhatia did not make a bogey until Sunday morning. He made one, I believe, on the second hole, something like that. But that was okay. He recovered from it, found the lead once again, and was a heavy favorite to win this golf tournament coming down the stretch. Went back and forth a lot. Reminded me of a horse race of guys just moving in and out of position. And one guy's in the lead, then another guy would fall back. And I mean, boy, it was all over the map, for really about the first 12 to 14 holes. And then finally it was really Davis and Bhatia that emerged at the forefront. Rye still had a chance. You mentioned Cam Young. He still had a chance. But then, Cam Davis putting his ball in the water on the 14th hole. I thought that was the end of Cam Davis right there. And then Bhatia decides to make another bogey, only his second one of the entire week, his first 3-putt of the entire week. He saves all of that for the final hole and loses the golf tournament. That was absolutely brutal. Cam Young, what a disappointment. His attitude and talking to himself and becoming, he just completely lost his mental focus. He was becoming frustrated with himself. It was all after the 14th hole when he snapped his driver to the left and he got frustrated and he leaned on it and he snapped the shaft. That club was now out of play, which, by the way, is his best weapon. Is he a great putter? No. Is he a great wedge player? Whatever. Is he a good iron player? Yes. What is he very best at? The driver. And now his very best weapon is no longer in the bag. Completely immature and stupid. And then he just acted like a crybaby the rest of the tournament when he couldn't hit a putt. I was never really a huge fan of him, and I didn't necessarily dislike him, and I still don't dislike him, but that was a pretty ugly performance, just behavior-wise, out of Cam Young last Sunday coming down. And here's a guy, like you said, that's finished runner-up 7 times, including in major championships, trying to get his first ever PGA Tour win, 1 shot off the lead, and snaps his driver. Not very mature. I hope he learns from that. I really felt bad for Bhatia. Cam Davis, he was as shocked as anybody. Wins the Rocket Mortgage for the second time. He wins this golf tournament 33% of the time, by the way. That's twice in 6 events that he's won the Rocket Mortgage. So good for him. But yeah, a wild finish. Like you said, not a ton of star power, but boy, not for lacking of drama. That's for sure.
So I know we're getting closer, in next week, the Scottish Open and then the Open, the British Open. So again, then this is, as you said, the third of the Birdie Fest. Is this good? I know the naysayers and then the live backers, they're out there all week, trolling the PGA. And there's some actual experts coming out and say, Scotty is so good, and I can't believe I'm bringing his name up. I thought I'd get a week without him. Scotty is so good because the talent's not there. He goes, it's a lot easier to win week to week on the tour because they're saying the talent is not there. Is that a fair statement?
I think you can make a solid argument about that. And I saw Hank Haney, if you're referring to what he had to say. I've actually spoken with Hank Haney on the air before, and he's a pretty darn good analyst in breaking down a golf tournament and has had success even betting on golf. He enjoys throwing a wager or two down on some tournaments as well. So I really enjoyed his insights as a guest, but he sounds like a disgruntled old man to me on Twitter oftentimes. And, are you just bummed because Tiger fired you many years ago? And I don't know if that's true or not. And I've never talked to Hank about it. And maybe I'm not making fair statements, but I'm asking what is really, what has he really got in his belly that he just wants to lash out and rip and tear and criticize, and I don't quite understand all of that. And he always went, the corrupt golf media. He loves to say that. And I don't know if I'm a part of that. I write for the PGA Tour. I write for golf.com. I've never been assigned to give my opinion on a live versus PGA. So I guess I'm not really qualified or not one of the guys that has a forum where I can comment on that type of thing. But let's get back to the original question here. What he said, Yeah, I'd say it's a fair statement. I don't know if it's entirely accurate. Okay, so you look at the live circuit. We've got Taylor Gooch, Cameron Smith, Brooks Koepka, Joaquin Neiman, Tyrrell Hatton. I mean, is there maybe 10 guys? Maybe there's a dozen guys. Patrick Reed, is he moving the needle any longer? Sergio Garcia has had a wonderful year, but again, that's against 54 guys, 30 of which probably aren't all that great shakes. And by the way, typical Sergio, he just yelled at the officials and missed the qualifier for the British Open again. He hasn't changed a bit. Good riddance to Sergio. So, yeah, I mean, I understand what Hank Haney is saying. No, I don't think the talent pool has gone away in the PGA Tour. There's a lot of remarkable up-and-comers. Look at Nick Dunlap, an amateur that won this year, and now this guy's made some noise last week, finished 12th at the Memorial where Scotty won. There's a lot of young players. Thor Bjornsson, out of Stanford, is an amateur that just turned pro that everybody's talking about. Oberg. I mean, there's plenty of huge young talent that will be surfacing, I'm sure, anytime soon on the PGA Tour. And, and I also believe your statement there, Jeff, that Scotty Scheffler just simply is that much better than everybody else in the world. You failed to mention that, Hank. He's whipping the tail off of all your guys like John Rahm and Cam Smith and Brooks Koepka. It doesn't matter where you play or who you are. Scotty's by and large the best in the world. So, I think the truth is probably somewhere in between to what he's saying. No, I don't think the tour has fallen off as far as talent. I think there's just as many young up-and-comers as there's ever been. Yes, the tour would be stronger if there was maybe a dozen guys from LIV that were together again. But how much does a dozen guys really move the needle when you're a guy like Scotty Scheffler that still is that much? I mean, he's like Tiger. He's doing what Tiger did. And Tiger at a point won almost half the tournaments he entered for a certain span of his career. Was the tour that much weaker back then? I would say the tour was weaker then when Tiger was dominating than it is now. I mean, Tiger competed against Ernie Els, Vijay Singh, Phil Mickelson, Sergio Garcia, David Duval. Okay, maybe Chris DeMarco, you can throw him in there once in a while. But look at who Scotty Scheffler competes against, and especially in majors. You can throw the 12 LIV guys that you want. You can throw another 20 on the two. I mean, he's competing, I think, against a lot more guys that can take him down at a moment's notice than Tiger ever did. And I'll also say that Jack Nicklaus competed against a lot more guys that could take him down than Tiger ever did. Nicklaus was competing against Dave Stockton, Tom Watson, Tom Weiskopf, Johnny Miller, Lee Trevino, Hale Irwin, Raymond Floyd, Seve Ballesteros, Greg Norman, Tom Kite. The list goes on and on and on. And so you talk about, I mean, it's always been Jack and Tiger. I think Jack had stiffer competition to deal with. Now kind of the latest dominant run that we're seeing is Scotty Scheffler, and I think he's had more difficult competition to deal with than Tiger. So again, is it easier to win on the tour? Maybe, just because you can say there's 12 guys that should be in the mix. Is the tour any weaker as far as the talent? No, I don't think so. Is Scotty the best in the world? By far.
And I'm glad you said it the way you did, especially about Haney and a cranky old man on Twitter, because when I read these remarks or I see them or I hear them, I think it's just someone poo-pooing the PGA and they're a LIV guy. And as you said, I mean, Rahm's done nothing. Brooks has done nothing. The list is endless. Bryson DeChambeau has carried LIV this year, and then of course had success on the PGA this year. So he's kind of brought the two together in my eyes.
Yeah, and I think that's what we all want. I'd love to see them back together again, and hopefully it happens sooner rather than later. But when you look at golf on a global stage, when you incorporate all the tours, I think it's stronger than it's ever been. Unfortunately, there's some separation going on right now, and we only really get to see the best compete 4 times a year against one another. But hopefully, we're closer than further away at this point.
John Deere Classic. Your course evaluation, I should ask you.
Well, yeah, it is the 3rd straight week of a birdie fest. And, a lot of, the John Deere has kind of been I don't know if it's been the butt of jokes, but, people, when they refer to a lesser known event or a ho-hum tournament, a lot of times they used to say, the John Deere Classic. What some of those people don't realize is this is a really good event. John Deere has been one of the very strongest sponsors of the PGA Tour for decades. And if you look at this tournament, it has really springboarded the careers of many tour players, getting their first, including Bryson DeChambeau, who got his first ever tour win at the John Deere Classic. A number of other guys have gotten their first ever tour win, including the defending champion, Sepp Straka. The fans come out in droves. It's the heart of the country in middle of America. It's really been a fantastically supported event, sponsor-wise, fan-wise, player-wise. They've done a remarkable job. You remember for years, it used to be the tournament immediately preceding the British Open. Mm-hmm. And they arranged for the winner and everybody else that was qualified to take a chartered jet right after Sunday afternoon over to London. So you didn't have that jet lag and everything. It became an inconvenience. Guys were not entering the tournament because they knew they had to immediately get to Europe for the British Open. And the John Deere was able to, pivot and accommodate that. It's been a great, great tournament for a long time, and a lot of dramatic finishes decided by, one stroke or playoff or whatever. So yeah, it is another birdie fest. It's an easy golf course. The average winning score over the last 7 years has been just a shade less than 22 under par. Wide fairways, larger than average bent grass greens. You got a lot of elevation change, 5 holes where water comes into play. And you're probably going to get, I know our friend Jeff Sherman at the Westgate Superbook put up the number 20.5 under par this week. You're probably going to get into the 20s as far as a winning score, somewhere between 19 and 22, I would imagine. The weather looks, it's going to be hot. It's hotter than what here in Las Vegas. And I know back where you are, we're getting ready to set records here apparently, and the whole country's hot right now. So they're going to have to deal with that. But no, I think we've got another good one on our hands as far as, and you kind of alluded to it briefly before we got into the rant about, live and all this other stuff. I like a good birdie fest now and then. I mean, the U.S. Open was brutal and the carnage, and, I like that as well. I kind of like a major that is won by somewhere of a like a -8 to -12. I love where the Masters on Sunday gives you that window of possibility where you can make an eagle and make a charge. And I don't like some of these train wrecks that we've seen in the past where 4 over par wins a golf tournament. I don't enjoy that. So, if week to week on the tour, it's 12 to 15 to 18 under, I'm okay with that. If the majors are closer to 8 to 10 under, I'm good with that, 6 under. And if we get a good old fashioned 24 under birdie fest now and then, that's fun too. And, and they're all fun to bet. You just have to kind of know what the game plan is going into each and every week. As far as the correlated courses I used, I mentioned this is the 3rd straight birdie fest. I used the last 2 weeks. So the Detroit Golf Club and TPC River Highlands, similar skill sets needed. Find the fairways, stuff it really close with a wedge, and putt lights out and make a bunch of birdies. That's kind of the formula and has been for a few weeks now. I also looked at TPC Scottsdale, where they play the Phoenix Open, TPC Twin Cities, where they play the 3M Open. And then also, let's see, what was there one other? I thought there was one other that I used. Scottsdale, Twin Cities, River Highlands, and Detroit. Also looked at TPC Potomac, where they've used off and on the PGA Tour. But no, I look forward to it. We kick off the 4th of July holiday with, a week at the John Deere in Silvis, Illinois. I'm fired up, man.
To the right of me, thanks to Mr. Benson at the Circa, just looking at some numbers. Sung J Im, the favorite at plus 1,300. Sep Straka, plus 1,500. Aaron Rye at plus 2,050. Davis Thompson, 2,100. Denny McCarthy, 2,150. Maverick McNeely at 2,400. I'm going to give a couple bigger names here. Jordan Spieth, 2,500. JT Poston, plus 3,000. Keith Mitchell, plus 3,400. Jason Day, 3,700. You talked about Nick Dunlap at 3,900. And I'll close it out because this guy had a pretty damn good weekend last weekend. Luke Clanton, plus 4,200.
Yeah, the amateur. And my article is now up at PGAtour.com under Golf Bet, the prop farm. And I thought, what a more appropriate week to have, the prop farm than the John Deere Classic, the tractors and the mowers and, the clippers and, what a better week to dive into the prop farm. But there's some interesting takes on there from some bookmakers around the country about either the overwhelming or complete absence of support for Jordan Spieth. Now, Jordan Spieth is one of those guys that won his very first ever PGA Tour event here in 2013 at the ripe old age of 19 years old, and obviously went on to do tremendous things from there. He came back and won this tournament again in 2015. He's been a huge supporter of the John Deere Classic for many years, but this is his first time back since that win in 2015. And we know Spieth has been struggling. He's won a couple times, but only twice in the last 7 years. He's only got a couple of top 10 finishes this season. One was in his home state of Texas at the Valero Texas Open. Once was at the Sentry to kick off the year. He finished third at Kapalua, a golf tournament he's won in a field of only 40-something or so. And then he had one more top 10, and I want to say it was maybe in Phoenix or something. But otherwise, it's been another, very inconsistent year for Jordan. He missed the cut at the Masters. I mean, how often does Jordan Spieth miss the cut at the Masters? Maybe his best tournament in his bag, other than a couple of the Texas events. So, obviously Jordan Spieth not in form. But if you go through that article, you'll see some of these guys say, it doesn't matter. And I'm a Jordan Spieth fan. I love the guy. I wish he'd get back into form, but I didn't play him this week. But it doesn't matter to a lot of these casual bettors who, are rooting for him and want to root for him and want to have a couple bucks on him when he hopefully turns that corner. BetMGM, I know, is overloaded with support for Jordan Spieth, and a couple of books here, Circa and the Superbook. You wouldn't even know the guy existed. So it's a very different split on Jordan Spieth action this week at a lot of the books across the country.
Well, I'm going to give you front and center stage for your outrights. How's that sound?
Okay, my man. Well, I said I did not play Jordan Spieth. I did go to the very top of the board and take Sung J M. And I thought it was difficult this week to find a lot of players that made a lot of sense. And the board kind of spoke to me more so last week. By the way, we haven't mentioned this yet, and that's probably a good thing. 2 straight weeks of a runner-up there, Mr. Dawson. Tom Kim at TPC River Highlands and Davis Thompson last week. So close, 2 weeks in a row now. That's been a little bit difficult. But this week did not jump out to me as much as the last couple of weeks have. We talked about Nick Dunlap, and I thought long and hard about him, but I felt it was kind of reactionary to what he had just done, and that was finish 10th at the Rocket Mortgage. If you look at what else he's done recently, it hasn't been that great. He's missed a few cuts. He finished 12th at the Memorial, pretty darn good, but I didn't want to be that guy that just remembers what he saw last and jump on Nick Dunlap. I also didn't want to bet Davis Thompson, who I know is a popular selection this week, because we just had that near miss with him last week. And you know how this goes, Jeff. Timing is everything in this business. And it's like, boy, I was that close with him last week. I had him nailed. I felt he was a good fit for the Detroit Golf Club last week. Now, just because he finished second, does that mean he's going to do it again this week? I felt the answer was no. Now, is he going to finish top 10, top 20? Yeah, probably a very good chance. He's in good form right now. But, it's kind of like I took my shot with the guy, and I'm not going to go. I might wait a little bit before I go back to the well and I see another really good fit. So I went with some different faces this week. And, Patrick Cantlay withdrew from this event on Monday. Soon JM before that was about 20-1. I got him at 16, and you say there at Circa he's at 13. I've seen as low as 12. And I've heard that both recreational and sharp action is on Soon JM. He's a great fit for this golf course. He's good off the tee. He's good on approach. He can putt, and he can make birdies in bunches. I really like, and this is another thing that caught my eye. I was only paying attention to that guy that finished second, Tom Kim. But meanwhile, Soon JM finished third at TPC River Highlands a couple weeks ago at the Travelers Championship. He has actually finished top 9 in 4 of his last 6 starts. He is in really good form right now. And then you look at what he's done on the correlated courses. Has finished 8th, as high as 8th in Detroit at the Rocket Mortgage. He's got a 6th and a 7th in Scottsdale, and he's got a runner-up at the 3M Open at TPC Twin Cities. And after that, again, this field is pretty watered down. So I went with a guy that not only made sense, but came at a pretty nice price and is clearly the best player in this field. And I know we talked about Jordan Spieth, but current form, what have you done for me lately? Soon JM is absolutely the best player in this field. So, rarely do we find ourselves at the very top of the board, Jeff, but I'd be surprised if Sungjae does not have a chance on Sunday. I would think he'll be somewhere in the top 5 and fighting for a victory there on Sunday. And then I went much further down the board. Adam Svensson at 50-1. Definitely one of the class players in this field. Really good with the ball striking numbers. He's also a Canadian kid who has that motivation to make the President's Cup team. And I do believe that has some legs to it. Taylor Pendrith, we saw get a win earlier this year. They're trying to make Mike Weir's team. Adam Hadwin has performed well. A lot of these Canadians have really performed well over the last 4 to 6 months or so because the President's Cup is being held in Montreal, and they really want to be a part of that team. Cam Davis is another example. Now, he's Australian, but he made the President's Cup 2 years ago. Now he's looking like he could probably have a spot on that team with a win last week. In 3 visits to the John Deere Classic, Adam Svensson has never finished worse than 24th. So he's been very respectable around here. He's got to finish as high as 15th at TPC Twin Cities, and he just took 16th at TPC River Highlands. Again, that's against a signature event status field as well. So not too shabby being able to finish 16th there. The ball striking numbers, like I say, are very, very good for Svensson. If he can find a hot putter this week, he should be in the mix. And then I went to Daniel Berger. And it was a month ago, Jeff, right here on this show, that I threw him out as one of my plays for the Canadian Open because I felt here's a guy who still has the ball striking prowess. It wasn't that long ago that he was a top 15 player in the world. Yeah, if you remember, Daniel Berger was that good. He left the tour for almost 2 full years, probably in the neighborhood of 18 months with injuries. And now he's making his way back. He's been back since January. And again, like I said, it's timing. The timing could be right here for a guy that's still being offered at really juicy prices. I got him at 70-1. Daniel Berger, again, a guy that's not that far removed from being one of the best players in the world. And the ball striking numbers are there. By the way, he just finished 21st at the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. That's pretty promising. If you go back pre-injury, before Daniel Berger had to take that time off, basically 2 seasons ago, TPC Scottsdale, 9th, 11th, 7th, and 10th. He's finished 5th and runner-up at TPC River Highlands, 15th at the 3M Open, and oh, by the way, 5th right here at the John Deere Classic. He's another one of those guys like Svensson. If the putter can find a heater this week, he's a guy that should be there once again. And then finally, the last guy I took was a triple-digit bomb, and I don't know if you can still find triple digits, but that's Joel Damon. I got him at 100-1. I've seen as low as about 80 to 1. I don't think I'm alone here at all in some guys liking Joel Damon this week. And I actually really liked him for my card last week. I almost put him down for the Rocket Mortgage. And he gets off to a great start. And I'm going, oh, shoot, I missed. I should have put Damon on my card. He played 3 really good rounds. And then on Sunday, he blew up and shot 76. So maybe that's why we're still getting a little bit of value on him, because he did slide all the way to finish 25th last week when he was actually in position to contend for a win. And if you look at the stats he was putting up through the first 3 days of the Rocket Mortgage Classic, he was really spot on off the tee, on approach. He's one of the most accurate drivers of the golf ball on tour. If you look at his strokes gained approach, he ranks 5th in this field over the last 24 rounds. And hole proximity, I talked about being able to dial in the wedges. When you're in a birdie fest, find the fairways like Damon does, dial in those wedges so you set up birdie putts from 10 feet. That's how it works. Well, if you look at hole proximity for Joel Damon, from 75 to 100 yards, he's 2nd in this field, and he's 23rd in this field from 100 to 125 yards. So the guy's knocking it in there close. Again, like Berger and Svensson, if he happens to find a hot putter this week, he should be there. So, hey, I hope all 3 of them find a hot putter. If just one of them does, I have faith in Soon JM. I think he's going to be there almost no matter what. If one of our other guys can get a hot putter for a couple, 3 days, we might have a couple in the mix come Sunday.
It's so funny because before I got the email today, I was looking at the odds, and no script here. We never script here. The one name that caught my eye in the Circa odds was Svensson at plus 4,400. That was the one name. Yeah.
I actually hit him for his first professional victory. This is, I guess, 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago-ish. It was like the fall wraparound season when he played the RSM Classic at Sea Island, and I hit him at 150 to 1. And admittedly, I didn't really know too much about the guy, but his numbers made all kinds of sense to me, and he won the darn thing. And I've kind of tracked him ever since. We had a good week with him a couple years ago. So, and I've looked at him. I think I played him one other time this year, maybe at the Valspar. He's been a little bit disappointing because, like I say, the putter in this field this week on bent grass, he ranks above average. But overall, his putter has not been very good on tour this year. And putting, you know how it's the most volatile of all stats. You might all of a sudden catch fire. Like Aaron Rai last week. Aaron Rai's an awful putter. He ranks 118th on tour with the flat stick. All of a sudden, he was lights out last week in Detroit and nearly won the golf tournament. So if Svensson or Damon or Berger can get that hot with the putter for a few days, I think the ball striking is there to take care of the rest.
And the bridesmaid, again, of course, I was waiting to talk about that. I don't know, it's like when we wager and invest in games, I don't know if I'd rather lose in extras, a walk-off, or, 9-0 first inning, thanks for playing. Then you just turn the page and you forget about it. But, 4 days of action and 100, 125, 150 golfers, and you finish second. And we know there's only one that can win. It is gratifying because your eyes are sharp. The work couldn't be better. I always say this when we're something like that, right side, wrong result. You did nothing wrong. You beat 133 damn golfers. There's nothing more you could do.
Yeah, no. And I'll tell you, I think I kind of, I think you like being in the mix more, and a tough loss is okay because, like you say, you were close. And you had that. You were almost there. You could have just as easily won the thing. I'm kind of glad I didn't have Akshay Bhatia. That would have upset me. That would have been painful. But Davis Thompson had a chance to birdie the last hole too, which would have gotten him into a playoff. But like you said, hey, we're in good form right now. That's 2 runners up in a row, and I mean, we haven't hit that many outrights all season, but we've cashed a lot of top 20s. We're hanging in there. And, hopefully it's always fun to hit the outrights, but, hopefully we finish strong here. Next up, we've got the Scottish Open and the British Open, and then we go into the FedEx Cup playoffs, and then it's football season, buddy. But I did want to talk to you about this. I mentioned Davis Thompson when I was going through my spiel there, and I was obviously on him last week, and I've seen a lot of people jump on him. I didn't see too many people on. Well, some people were on him last week. I know that some sharp people were on him last week, but now I've seen a lot of people gravitate towards him this week, and I'm like, guys, the secret's out. Is he going to do this again? I don't necessarily like to go down that road. I feel like I had my chance. We almost nailed him. Now let's move on, and I'll find another spot for him at a different time. I was also on Ben Griffin last week. And if you look at this week's field, Ben Griffin is a name that sticks out as one of the better players and makes a lot of sense. And I'm like, you know what? He made a lot of sense last week. He played pretty well. He didn't quite get there for us for even a top 20 finish, but do I want to use him again just because I thought he was, you know how it is. Almost in any sport, I almost had the outright win with the Jets upsetting the Chiefs. Am I going to play the Jets again this week? No, it doesn't mean they're going to, every week's a different week. So a lot of people were on Nick Dunlap. A lot of people are on Ben Griffin. A lot of people are on Davis Thompson this week. Not me. They all caught my eye last week, but I'm not in the business of trying to double up.
100%. Absolutely. Same thing here. And I couldn't have said it any better. And I know we talk about form. It's almost like a horse race. They get lathered up. They run the perfect race, a golf course, horses for courses, no pun intended. Again, they were right there. They fired. They were right in contention to the last 3 holes, but that doesn't mean you go back to them the next week.
Yeah, and you can make the argument that, hey, he's been in good form. He finished runner-up, talking Davis Thompson. He finished runner-up at the Myrtle Beach Classic, finished runner-up now in Detroit. We talked about this being a correlated course, rinse, repeat, just do the same thing. I just sometimes, it's like the laws of sports betting. It just doesn't work that way, So I stayed away from I went with totally fresh faces. I went back to Daniel Berger at 70-1. I hope I'm right on this guy soon because he's only 31 years old. I don't think the career is over for Daniel Berger. I mean, if he continues to suffer injury and everything, but this guy was too good not that long ago. I think he's going to come back eventually. I hope it's this week. A lot of guys we talked about have started their career with a win at the John Deere. Maybe it'll reignite the career for Daniel Berger.
Next week, as you said, the Genesis Scottish Open. If I remember correctly, Rory McIlroy, defending champ. He's had a couple weeks off since the blunder on 16 and 18. So we'll see a fresh Rory as it's the week before a major. Again, that week before, week after, always a little sketchy. But I think Rory, I haven't looked at any odds or anything. A lot of people will be here getting into form, into shape for the following week as well.
Yeah, and Rory will probably be a popular play, and I'm not so sure I won't be one of those people that's on him because you got to believe he's probably been able to refresh his mind and kind of extricate, the disappointment. And now it also helps that he's going back to a tournament where he made a remarkable comeback to win, and he's defending his title. So that, at the same time, while he's trying to clear his head and get rid of that disappointment that was the U.S. Open, he's also got the juices flowing and the excitement about defending a title when he hit one of the best shots of his life, I believe, by his own admission, to come back and beat Robert McIntyre, by the way. Robert McIntyre, who just won the Canadian Open, was runner-up to Rory, was leading the Scottish Open, trying to win in his home country. And here comes Rory and caught him. So an incredible finish last year, an incredible win for Rory. He is traditionally always very good the week before a major. So it sets up pretty well for Rory, I think. Now, again, I don't know if I'm going to be on him, I like to tend to be in the minority, and you kind of think a lot of people will be on Rory because of that narrative, but it makes sense on paper.
Scroll has been going the whole time. Everyone here obviously knows to go to Twitter at Las Vegas Golfer. As I always do, we end the show with you telling them where they can find all your written work, and of course when they can find you on TV on Sports Grid.
Yeah, I will be on Sports Grid coming up here pretty soon at 7:30 Eastern time this evening, and then again at 10:15 p.m. Eastern time this evening. Go over, I won't have any necessarily different picks, but maybe some different angles and different discussions with different people about the picks. And then also you can find my written work at golf.com and then also at pgatour.com under the heading of Golf Bet. Mentioned that on the show. I've got the Prop Farm article out there right now. Very interesting, some angles and where the action is coming in from bookmakers around the country at BetMGM, at Circa, at Westgate, all different kinds of betting patterns that I think are very interesting as you try and formulate your card. And then, like I always say, you can always get updated with all of that when it all comes out, Sports Grid, the written work, what have you, right here with Jeff at East Coast Sports Investors on my Twitter account at Las Vegas Golfer.
I can't wait. We got some action to put in. Want you to personally enjoy the 4th. Make sure you stay hydrated. It is going to be hotter than Haiti in Vegas. I know it's a dry heat, but we both know 117 is 117. So pick your spots, please. I want to thank everyone again for watching. We want to bless everyone with a great 4th of July. Be safe. Have fun with the family barbecues, beaches. We got some dogs barking in the background. That means the dogs are coming in tonight in the MLB. So 6:15, Scotty Webb in the batter's box to talk his MLB top plays. And if make sure you go catch Brady on the grid tonight in a couple spots. And I will be there at 8:30 myself with Mr. Scott Wetzel. See you soon.